Shut up, man, I swear to God.
Are you one of those cool teachers that uses first name like Dan?
I'm not one of those kids. You call me sir, but you guys
Okay,
can call
sir.
me Dan. You guys can call me Dan. My name's Dan. In the SCA, I'm known as Blevin. I was knighted a couple of years ago, specifically or mostly for my war fighting. I would suggest, although I go all right with polearms, I also fight sword and shield. I started fighting sword and shield in 2004. Kind of picked up some polearms occasionally since then, and have probably fought exclusively polearm with the occasional sword and shield when people kind of ask me to fight sword and shield. I don't enjoy fighting sword and shield as much as I used to before. But yeah, I really enjoy polearm. I enjoy polearm because of the physicality of it. I move a lot. I'm very dynamic when I am fighting. And consequently I don't wear a lot of armour. You probably noticed that I'm not wearing much armour. I choose to take the get out of the way instead of getting hit approach. And so I'm not suggesting that you guys do that at all. That's what works for me. A lot of my stuff, a lot of the way that I teach, for those of you that are on class, is what works for me. It might not work for you. I'm going to teach you guys what I do, and if it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, that's totally okay too. Please come and talk to me, and I'll find something that works for you, and I will try to help you. I think as trainers, it's really important that we don't try to impart what we do as gospel, because sometimes it doesn't work. I'm not super tall, I'm not super large, I'm not super strong, so it's not going to work for everybody. If you feel that something I ask you to do, or I'm working with you with, doesn't make sense, please talk to me. If it doesn't feel right, like it's going to hurt you, please talk to me. If you think that I got a shoulder injury, so I don't want to do that, that's okay, just let me know. So I was originally going to teach a fairly in-depth course on polearm fighting tactics in war and melee. I will probably do a little bit of that stuff towards the end. It'll be some fairly simple stuff. What I'm going to do today is just do some really basic polearm stuff. I'm going to talk to you about different polearms. I'm going to show you the way that I fight with those different polearms. Really quickly, I'm just going to go over Bane's course from last year. What was Bane's? Pointy end goes into the other guy.
Stab him with the pointy bit.
Stab him with the pointy bit, okay. The good thing with some of these weapons is they have lots of pointy bits. The majority of polearms that you'll see are pretty much just tape sticks, okay, so it's a long stick of rattan. I've got a thrusting tip on the back end so I can thrust. I don't thrust anywhere except the face, simply because it's not a spike, it's just a weight. Everybody knows our assumed armour, and legally, sure, I can thrust you in the chest, but if you've got your assumed armour on, and I thrust you with a little bit of a metal bump, I might crack a rib, but it's probably just not going to do anything. If I smash you in an open-faced helmet with the weight on the back, it's probably going to do a little bit more damage. So I choose to fight with a butt spike, and I don't attack anyone with a butt spike except in the face. That's me. It's not you. You don't have to fight that way. Thrusting tip on the other end, and then a taped blade of your choosing of your length. I used to fight with a really, really short one. Then I realised I kept hitting people in the haft, or with the haft. So I made it a bit longer, and then suddenly I started killing more people. This one needs a little bit of work. I've recently gone to a shorter one. The reason I have transitioned to a shorter glaive, you can see that it's quite a bit shorter, is I feel that some of my transitions can be faster. So my blocks to my attacks are quicker because there's physically less leverage to move around. It also doesn't get bound up anywhere near as much when I'm fighting an opponent. Yeah, so pretty much exactly the same length as that. If I'm fighting with a pike in a war, obviously there's no cutting blade on it, it's just a thrust. It's 9 foot long, so if I block like this, 7 feet out that way, I'm accidentally going to bump into a tree and not be able to make the block. So that's why I've shortened this a lot. I do really enjoy fighting with a spear though. So what I'm going to get everybody to do is grab a polearm. There's lots here. I've got Dane axes as well. I've got a matched pair of Dane axes. They're kind of fun to fight with. You want to grab a long one, grab a long one. You want to grab a short one, grab a short one. It doesn't matter.
There's a super long one there. It's Andrew's size.
Contoured heads as well?
Oh yeah, we've got contoured heads as well. Obviously, this is probably the most common because some people are pretty lazy and just like to throw tape on a stick like me. I've also made heads, like I made Danax heads. These are kind of fun too. These anti-vibration foam with a leather face on it. The reason I've got the leather face on it is if I hit someone with a foam head, it kind of feels like a push and not a clack like from a sword. Has everyone had the helmet on and actually been hit once or twice? Yeah, cool. Are you guys authorized fighters? No? Okay, that's totally fine. So you'll know what that clack feels like with a standard sword shot. You don't get that with polearms that are built up from foam unless you put that clacker on there. So you really get that snap when you kind of receive a blow or have to deliver a blow. So I am right-handed. I'm very right-handed, except I fight left-handed with a polearm. I chop wood with my right hand back, which apparently means I'm left-handed. I therefore fight with a polearm with my right hand back. Make sure if you want to start training with polearm more, you switch up your hands a lot. Try to fight half of each training session that you're fighting with a polearm with both hands. So one hand back, shift, one hand back. You will, as you get better fighting with a polearm, be able to see the intricacies of when you need to shift. So if I was squaring up against Benny with my right hand back and I saw him create a gap, I can switch and then take advantage of that gap there that he's just opened up. I could sit here like this and try to hit him that way, but all I really want to do is if I go up this way and he shifts, I can come in that way. Boom, thank you very much. Okay, thanks Benny. So be aware that just because one way feels comfortable and one way feels crazy Gumby, both are completely useful and completely necessary. That's the same if you're just fighting with a pike, which is just a thrust only. I reckon 85–90% of the time I'm going to be fighting with my right hand back, but there will be that occasion where checkers is open, so I'll go, oh, thanks for coming, and keep fighting. Okay, so just be aware that when you're fighting, make sure that you train both hands. All right, I train when I fight single sword. I train left-handed as well. I suck with my left hand single sword, but occasionally, if I'm fighting in a tourney and I get my right arm taken, I can switch and I can fight left-handed. And all you need to do is surprise your opponent just a little tiny bit for you to get that like slight advantage. Okay. So has anyone never fought with polearm before? 1, 2, 3. Cool. Has anyone fought? So we've got some new fighters. We've got some unauthorized fighters. Some fighters that have been around for a long time. Okay, cool. So what I'm just going to go through is some really simple stuff, and then we'll build on that stuff for the more experienced fighters. Okay. Obviously, pointy end goes into the other dude. Obviously, but in saying that, because we've got, have you guys got swords and shields here?
Yes.
Can you go and grab them, please? And I'll run and grab mine as well. Most of the time, if I'm fighting with a polearm, it's pretty rare that I fight another person with a polearm in the tourney. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some training against some swords and shields, simply because most of the time when you square up against someone with a polearm, you're going to have you're going to be fighting someone with a shield. Which is kind of boring for me. I really like fighting someone with a polearm when I'm fighting with a polearm, because you see that
fun.
Yeah, dynamic on dynamic, and it's fast. It's alive, and it feels organic. I feel a little bit static sometimes fighting against a sword and shield, but I get to fight, so I take what I can get. I'll get you, Benny, because I fight you all the time, because I know you. Am I still in shot?
Just.
Give me a sec. Way. Show me the turn.
We good.
Yep.
Sun's the right for my eyes, not the camera.
Oh, we'll move the camera because I want people that can't get to night school to be able to get a lot of out of this.
Oh no, the camera's fine.
Okay.
The camera's fine.
So I'll get you. Yeah.
You were broken.
So I'll get you guys to come, and you can stand on one side, you can stand on the other. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to go through a few things, then I'll grab my sword and shield, and then we might just kind of shift back and forth working on these tactics. Obviously, the main advantage that I have on Benny is what? Range, exactly. So he's there, and without leaning, I'm here. I've got my feet in. I tend to fight either in what I call horseman stance or saddle stance, or I'll fight with my backhand, back foot, back. The difference is that if I want to shift, it then goes to there. If I want to fly it that way, I've then got that much extra range. So talking about those subtle shifts, and that's the kind of more in-depth stuff that I'll be talking about later on. It's the subtle shifts and these tactics that will also significantly play a big part when you're fighting in war. So if you're fighting engaged in two teams and you can just get that extra 6 inches, 12 inches of range, then suddenly the other kind of people on the other side don't realise, you can dot them all in the face and then you're all good.
So same length, whereas if I'm put back, forwards, you can hit me, I can't hit you.
Yeah, so if I do that, I've got even more. So we just kind of, we'll be fighting like this and then I'll shift. Boom. Alright, without that, just those little shifts that we're talking about. But like I said, I talk a lot and it's never in a straight line, so I'm going to go back to this. When I square up against Benny, Otto, sorry, we start a long way away from each other. So I'm still at a much greater advantage because he's in range for me a long time before I'm in range for him. The general consensus when you're fighting a polearm is to what?
Get in or get out.
Get in or get out, that's true. So that means you are forced to make a decision. Benny was there for a conversation last night talking about war tactics again. A lot of the stuff that I'm talking about here is small things, moves into big things when you're fighting in war and melee. The best decision is any decision made. Okay, regardless of whether it was the right one, it's much better to die trying something than die thinking about something. So if Benny's sitting there going, oh, I'm not sure whether I should take a step back or take a step forward, suddenly you have time to go. Well, Benny's thinking, boom, thank you very much. So as a shieldsman, they're going to be probably charging towards you. So be prepared to run backwards a lot. Okay? If you don't want to run backwards, that's fine. Be prepared to stand your ground. The one thing that this gives you as a big advantage is your range. The one thing it removes is your defense. I'm not saying you can't defend with this, and I'll teach you how to defend with it, but you don't have this big gigantic thing that's covering 2/3 of your body to protect you. It's covering more than that because you can't get hit with the shin. And so you need to learn to block with this. This is your attack. Sorry, camera. This is your attack, this is your defense, this is your everything. So you need to use it cohesively. It's a good word. I like that word. The way that I'm training people to fight and the way that I fight is every movement through attack is a defense. So if I stand my guard against Benny and I throw a thrust, I don't just bring it straight back. I'll bring it high and then return. Okay? Or if I do a chop, I'm not bringing it straight back. I'm bringing it down and then returning. So if he riposts when I throw a shot, I'm here, returning, and I'm defending. Does that make sense, guys? Cool. So all we want to do, we can either thrust or we can chop. This kind of, same with the sword, thrust and chop. You can use both of them in conjunction. You can use them cohesively. Make sure that you are using them cohesively with your defense. Okay. So what we're going to do now, thanks to pair up, because you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, awesome. Pair up with someone at about your level. That should work out pretty nicely. About your height works good too, and about your length of polearms. If you've got 2 people with long polearms, we'll get you guys to pair up. 2 people with short polearms, we'll get you guys to pair up. And then, yeah, that's perfect.
Pull together, we'll be good.
Yeah, so this is good. Ali, Reed, you guys pair up, that'll work.
Good fight.
Nikolai,
I'll pair with you.
have we got 2?
Oh, I know.
Yep. I'll keep my helmet off for the. Oh, I'll obviously keep my helmet off for most of this. Yeah. So just pair up. I want you guys to stand just in range, and I'm going to go through a few really simple things with you. I'm really sorry. This class is a little bit mishmash at the moment. I'm really kind of dialing it in. Bear with me. Bend my ear about it later on. Take a step in so you can get your point on their shoulder. That's perfect. Some of you will be further away than others. Some of you will be closer. Yeah, pair up with them. Yeah, pair up with seconds. That's perfect. So what I want you guys to do is that this is to keep your tip online. When your tip goes offline, you lose defense. When your tip goes offline, you lose point control. So if I stand against checkers like this, and he thrusts at me, and I do a massive block, I'm offline. Yeah, I could probably turn it here, but he has just as much time to bring that up to bring it back as defense. Exactly. So if he does the same thrust, and I'm doing a small amount, we're talking about a lot of leverage. So a small amount makes a huge difference 3 feet away. So all I need to do is literally move it that far. I've moved his weapon this far, 2 inches. Okay, 2 inches, and it's gone a foot away from my head. More. Okay. So tip online. What I'll get you guys to do. For those of you that are a little bit more experienced, you guys can do some more experienced thrusts. You can do some chops. You can do some stuff. I'm going to work with the less experienced people first, and I'll build up to you guys. So what I want you guys to do in a second, and I'll demonstrate. He's going to thrust a couple of times, and I'm going to block. Yep, he's going to thrust again. Obviously that didn't work. Okay, this is why we're training. He's going to thrust again. Good. I'm going to switch it. I'm going to do it again. Let's try that. That's good. He's going to